bag na dong nje ka e cha gisa ka mama ntie bag ni modu your number just in case we decide not to do for for what? Even if for
Well, good afternoon, family. I am so thrilled reporting today from an undisclosed location somewhere in the middle of Kenya. Man, our country is absolutely gorgeous. Super gorgeous. I know you all are used to me raving about how beautiful Karateng is. But man, travel around Kenya and you'd be amazed at the natural and man-made wonders that make this place we call Mamaland. In my first, I would say the first half of my life, I have not traveled that much within Africa. And I'm considering myself sort of middle age. I still have about half of my life left if I'm lucky. But I'm really committing to really visiting different parts of Kenya that I've not traveled. So this is my first time in this part of Kenya. And having been born and raised in the village, outdoor Africa is the one place where I feel complete. I remember growing up as a kid, pathways looked like this. Of course, they were not paved, but you had like these little pathways moving through bushes, and this feels absolutely wonderful and brings all the childhood memories playing in bushes and all that stuff. I know city people may not fully connect with that, but this was my world growing up as a kid. And so in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to share with you my experience out in the bush with my mom, my brother, and of course the chief supervisor right there with her bag. We took a couple of days to go experience this magic right in the middle of Kenya. So we had a fantastic time out here. I have lots of footage that I will be streaming over a period of time, not necessarily back to back, but here and there I'll be sharing the footage, which probably would be about 5 hours plus. And so I hope you're ready to come back and get some more. But since I know you know everything, where do you guys think we are? So I'm not disclosing that yet right now, but I'd like for you to guess in the comment section. Tell me where you think you are, because some people may have actually spent some time here. I'd be curious for you to see that. But I'll share with you lots of footage about our experience out here in the bush, just kicking back and enjoying the best of what Kenya has to offer. And again, for me, the best part of this trip was just spending time much closer to nature. So folks, if you're joining us for the first time, I'm a Kenyan American who is doing everything possible to return permanently from the United States. We live in Karateng in Kisumu County in Western Kenya, but we also have a home in Long Beach, California. So we go back and forth. But progressively, I've been spending time in Kenya, way more than I typically do. And in the process, I am involved in construction, real estate, and things like that. So if you are a person who is interested in things like that, feel free to reach out on the number below. If you need any guidance or support, we are connected with so many architects, builders, interior designers, landscapers, and things like that. So be sure to reach us if you need any guidance on things like that. But anyway, for today, I want you to join us and let's chat about what it takes to really kick back and enjoy certain things in Africa. Again, many of us spend time doing these kinds of things, others don't. And for me, this is actually my first time to do what you're going to watch us do in the next couple of weeks. So I know for sure that when I'm back in the States, whenever I tell my non-African friends that a lot of us from Africa actually get to see animals like cheetahs right here in diaspora, they are often shocked. And honestly speaking, where we live in Karateng, there are no cheetahs, there are no lions. Of course, we have tons of wild animals, but we don't have certain things. And so for some of us in the US, when we were back in Kenya, we never got to see these animals. But when we came to the US, we were able to see them now in zoos. And many of my American friends are surprised. I tell them, yeah, because some of them think that everywhere in Africa is like what you're seeing right now, not realizing that it depends on where you live. And so, even though we have all kinds of parks, wild animals everywhere, I mean, not everywhere, but most parts of Africa, especially in Kenya, there are lots of African kids who never get to see these animals except for the ones that are featured on TV or National Geographic and things like that. And here are some exceptions. There are kids who obviously will see these things as part of what is normal to them, especially kids who are raised in villages. Because many villages have native wild animals right and left. I remember growing up, we had lots of snakes, we had crocodiles, hippos, and things like that. But I know for sure we never had cheetahs. So this is actually the first time I'm actually seeing a cheetah up close doing its thing in the wild. Because in Karateng, we don't have that. But we used to have leopards in Karateng. We have hyenas and things like that. So depending on where you grew up, you may not see that. But village kids may have the opportunity to see these animals better than others. And however, kids who live in cities that are near national parks like Nairobi also have the opportunity to see some of these things, because I have my cousin lives in Rongai, and on the way to Rongai you'll meet hyenas. Sometimes you see lions coming to eat dogs, and so depending on where you live, you might be able to see some of these animals. There are documented instances of lions causing traffic jam in Nairobi. So kids who live in the cities or kids who are upper middle income may get to see this as a function of their parents' status. So here are some of the reasons why many Africans don't get to experience this kind of safaris. Number one, a proper safari is really expensive. Then number two, a lot of Africans associate, not all of us, a lot of Africans associate safaris with opulence or foreigners. In fact, some of our parents will actually tell you that instead of buying them a ticket to go to Masai Mara or Mombasa, they'll say, hey, just give me the money. I'll put it to good use, because that is just a waste of money. And in my mind, I think that is a legacy of poverty or just survival mode. And then there are people who just don't find joy in things like this. The idea of just running around the bush looking at animals who are mostly focused on sitting, birthing, and feeding just doesn't seem exciting. And so for me personally, when I did this trip, the part I didn't like was the long drive from Nairobi. Our vehicle was not the most comfortable, and then a few things didn't go quite right. But the people don't enjoy stuff like this, and that is perfectly fine. And for us in the village, our traditional idea of a holiday often meant traveling to the village, some religious stuff like church, eating, and then more work. So you take vacation from work to go do more work in the village. So things like going and visiting parks was really not a part of what we think of in terms of holidays in the village. And then traveling within Africa is very expensive, or traveling to Africa is very expensive. Now, when I looked it up, some of the most commonly cited reasons were bilateral agreements that seem not to favor Africa. And some folks argue that flights within Africa are often structured around cumbersome bilateral agreements between countries, which can really restrict competition. And that really increases cost. And I think that really makes a lot of sense, given just how much it costs to travel. And some people even argue that the distances and the routes that they take make travel in Africa very expensive. But it does not make sense, because when you look at a flight, for example, from Nairobi to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, the distance is only about 1,000 miles. And a round ticket would set you back anywhere up to $730. Now compare that to a flight from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. And my most recent ticket was $230. And the distance is over 2,500 miles. And it's like a third the cost of what it takes to travel between Nairobi and Addis Ababa. So the cost of traveling in Africa is insane. And sometimes people blame demand and supply, which is a problem across the board, not just an African problem. But whatever it is they do, it makes Africa very expensive. Some people have also argued that Africa really accounts for very little air travel. In fact, they say that maybe about 2% of global passenger traffic is what Africa occupies, which is really small. But yeah, for whatever reason, they make traveling within Africa or things like safaris, they make them so expensive that the average native person does not have the opportunity to experience these things in person. So anyway, based on some of the things I've picked up through this process, I would say that number one, a safari is not for everybody. The idea of, because not everybody, actually even in our team, not everybody had fun. The idea of sitting for hours just watching animals devouring each other may not be fun. And also sometimes, like in our case, it was us, my family, and then we had some white tourists. And there was this 20-something-year-old kid with his mom looking at an elephant who had its joystick out, and they were busy talking about it. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to hear you talking about that next to my mom. So there are things like that. And then at night, the tents were slightly on the colder end, but that was fine. But in all, I think it was worth it. And if you've not done it, it may not be a thing for you, but just give it a try.